Approached by a number of Wilson County residents asking me to stay in this race, to run for this office, and do what I could to improve the county attorney's office. And during this short time, I think we have taken a number of steps to improve the operations of the office, work to improve the way cases are prosecuted in Wilson County, the different procedures that are now in place that weren't in place before, to improve this office to better serve the citizens of Wilson County. And my pledge to you is that if I'm elected, I will. Well, I made them a promise as well 4 years ago that I would be their county attorney, and that term ends up in January 11th, 2021. When that term is over, I will no longer be their county attorney. My word is my bond. And I said I would serve 4 years there, and that's what I've done. And I'm pledging to you that if elected, I will serve 4 years in Wilson County. Thank you very much.
I was the guy jumping up and down wanting to answer the questions that the sheriff's candidates were getting asked. Give you some background on me. I grew up on a farm and ranch up on the Nebraska border, and was proficient with rifles and shotguns by the time I was 7. I was running a big tractor by the time I was 9. And when I went to school, I had made the determination when I was in 7th grade that I wanted to be an attorney. And I wanted to be an attorney that was spending time in courtrooms. And I made the decision not to go to a city. I had family members giving me grief over, why aren't you in Kansas City? Why aren't you in Denver? And I said, because I don't want to raise my kids in a city. I want to raise my kids in a rural area. And I had an opportunity here, and I came down. And you know, this county is as beautiful now as it was then. I've lived here 41 years. And I still think of this when I'm driving in the county and looking at this county. And yes, I do know a lot of people here. There's nothing wrong with me knowing people and making decisions when you're a prosecutor. And a county attorney is not just a prosecutor. Now, if the situation came up like what Russ brought up, the county attorney is the chief law enforcement officer of the county. Russ could come to me and tell me what's going on and why he's dissatisfied, and I can find out what's going on and see if I can't get it corrected. But a county attorney is more than that. You're a counselor to the county commissioners. Now, in the week that I was in, when the judges put me in for the interim county attorney, I didn't get called down to the county commission office like during the time when I was county attorney from September of 1983 to 1994 to break up a fist fight or a fist fight that's about to begin. And I did have that come up from time to time because there was a lot of animosity in the county commission at that point. And I enjoyed the camaraderie. I enjoy spending time with the county commissioners. I enjoy spending time with the county employees. They all seem to be good, hardworking people. And I want to be able to get back in as county attorney and be able to do the job. And one of the primary things for me is looking after kids and protecting children. And it's also, crimes need to be prosecuted. When I was in before, there were 2 that stuck out that have still remained with me. And there were 2 cases that I was told by experienced prosecutors I could never win. I charged cases and we got convictions. One was the Haney Kenworthy murder in Neodesha. And thanks to work with Wes Sade, who was the chief of police in Neodesha at the time, and Jim Shue, they were able to put that thing together so we could get the charges and get him convicted. And I also remember specifically the jury returned a guilty verdict the defendant, stood up in front of that jury and threatened to kill me right then and there. And if that ever in your life confirms a jury's decision, I don't know what else would be. And the other one was a young lady who had some physical problems and eyesight problems, and she was raped. And the first thing that happened was her glasses were knocked off, and it was tough for her. She couldn't identify. She couldn't identify specifically who it was. And I had an experienced prosecutor, an elected official review the case. She said we wouldn't even charge it. Well, I charged it, and I got the conviction. I'll never forget that young lady coming up to me afterwards and saying, "Thank you for believing in me and doing what you've done. I was afraid nobody would believe me." So I'm there. I live 1.25 miles from the courthouse. And when I originally came to Wilson County, I lived at Neota Shea, and then lived here in Fredonia, and now we live out south of town. And I'm someone that you can contact, and I can answer your questions, or I will find out what they are if I can't answer them right away. My experience during that week when I was the county attorney with law enforcement officers, all of them were doing a good job. They were writing good reports, and I was impressed with what they were doing. Now, is there an issue with drugs in this county? You bet there is, and it needs to be dealt with. And I've got some specific things that if I'm elected as county attorney, that I will be meeting with the heads of the departments and also with Highway Patrol about implementing things in order to deal with this stuff. It is everywhere, and it is not a good situation, but it is something that can be fought, and we can do that. And I would follow through with that. Thank you.
Thank you. And you'll take the first question.
Okay.
Just a second. Larry, you hear me okay? Mr.
Yes,
Markle?
Mark, thank you.
Okay. The first question. Oh, here it is. Yeah. Thank you. You'll need to see me. The first question kind of relates to opening statements, and your situation is different than Mr. Markle's, but how much work time will you dedicate to Wilson County, to the attorney job?
This will be my primary job, and I will concentrate on being here every day. I do have a private practice. My wife is in the private practice with me. For those of you who haven't heard, she's currently going to be the county attorney in Greenwood County and also in Elk County. We are paring down the cases that we're taking on a private practice basis, and we're paring those down to very little. I still have to keep my office open, but I plan on being here and in this office every day, and this will be the primary thing that I'm concentrating on.
Thank you. Mr. Markle?
Yes, thank you. If elected this term, the term starts January 11th of 2021. This will be my only job. The county attorney job is a full-time job, whether you're paid part-time, full-time, whatever. My work ethic is such that I get up at 5 o'clock every morning. I'm at the office by 7 in Fredonia. If I'm working right now, for example, if I'm going to spend the day in Independence, I'm there by 6. I don't leave the office until my desk is cleared. Doesn't matter what time of day it is or what else is going on. I don't leave until the files are dealt with. And you can see that if you come to my office in Fredonia, there used to be files everywhere. And if you come to my office Monday morning, there'll probably be some files on my desk because I haven't been able to be there this week because of the quarantine. But when I leave, whatever day that I come back, there won't be any files on that desk. They will all be dealt with, and they will all be concluded. I answer the phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The only time I don't answer the phone is Sundays, 2 hours, And Wednesday night, 1 round. The rest of the time, the officers in Wilson County call me. And they have quite regularly called me since I became county attorney. I also have an open door policy, which means that if they have a question about a case, all they got to do is show up. If I'm not with somebody, I'm not on the phone, I take them as they come in. We deal with their questions. We answer the legal problems. We help with search warrants. We take whatever time is necessary to do the job.
Okay, thank you. Are you hearing well enough? Okay, very good. Very good. The next question is for you, Larry. And it's the same one that we had for sheriffs. This year, we've seen government will to do anything they can get away with, constitutional or not. In 6 months, we could have a Democrat-controlled federal government that has vowed already to take our guns, oppose religious rights, and privacy rights. Will you uphold the Constitution as you've been sworn to do, and will you protect the rights of the Wilson County citizens, opposing federal overreach if necessary? Larry?
The answer is absolutely yes. And that's not just a campaign promise, that's a proven fact. When the first, quote, order came down from Governor Kelly, an email was sent to every law enforcement agency in Wilson and Montgomery counties. And that email outlined how that these orders coming from Governor Kelly were unconstitutional. And at the time, it caused quite a stir in the legal community because I was sticking my neck out saying that these orders were inappropriate. Luckily for me, the Attorney General, Derek Schmidt, came out with his own very extensive memorandum, which mimicked the same procedural things that I pointed out in my email and the problems with Governor Kelly's orders. The same thing happened when this latest round of orders came out, as I sent out additional emails, again, to all of the law enforcement agencies in both counties, that they were not to arrest anyone, that these orders were, again, unconstitutional. And that's extremely important, folks, because we've got to stop analyzing situations in our society as what can we do? The Constitution was written to limit government. Our Constitution, our Bill of Rights recognizes that we have a First Amendment freedom of speech right, and it limits the government. Our Second Amendment is exactly the same. It recognizes that we have the right to bear arms, and it limits the government's ability. And we got to change the conversation and quit saying, well, you know, protecting my rights, et cetera. We got to get on the ball and say, no, we're going to stop the government and limit them as per the Constitution. And that's the oath that I took as county attorney, and I will uphold that oath to the very end.
Oh. Yeah, I've got an alarm that goes off at a certain time. Oh man, I didn't set that alarm.
Well, that's why I kept talking.
Sorry. Okay.
You can tell I never knew you.
Thank you,
That's
Markle.
kind of how I my wake up alarm. Just let it go.
You got a question?
Yeah,
I knew girls like come out of you know, I could go to sleep.
When we are sworn in, we are sworn to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America, and also Kansas Constitution. We have to, as lawyers, abide by the laws that the legislature passes. And that doesn't keep us from raising questions about things where there's maybe government overreach. And I wouldn't have a problem in doing that in the event that that is occurring. I think everybody's probably concerned enough with all the things that are going on in our country at the present time. Luckily, we haven't had any rioting here in Wilson County that I'm aware of. That's it, short sentence.
Thank you. Next question is for you, John, and first for you. And this is a little bit of a tough question, and I don't know enough, but you guys just be honest with us, and I give you an opportunity to bare your souls before us and say what you want. And I know that I don't have to tell you that. I just ask the question. And first for you, John, and it's going to be a little bit of a two-part question, so, but one part for you. And I'm going to change the question slightly for you, Mr. Markle, if that's fair enough. Have you had any lawsuits, ethics complaints filed against you when you address voters' concerns?
I haven't had any lawsuits filed against me. I haven't had any ethics issues.
Mr. Markle?
Yes, back in approximately 1990, this is, before the advent of Excel spreadsheets, I made a $13 and some odd mistake on a settlement sheet. That's a sheet that you're required to give a client when you're dividing up money. I obviously, when approached about that, I gave the money back, and I got what's called an informal admonition. That's the only ethics complaint I have. I have had the privilege of being sued quite a few times as county attorney by the ACLU, and those have made national headlines. The most recent one was their claim that I banned a defendant from the state of Kansas. What didn't make national headlines is when that case was dismissed and was proven that I did not actually do that. The second lawsuit is also by the ACLU. Their claim was that I was too mean to drug defendants and that I should have given them all diversions. That suit is currently pending in the District Court of Montgomery County. It's been briefed, and we're waiting on a decision from Judge Gossard on whether or not they even have the right to sue me. Because under Kansas law, in order to sue a public official, you have to have certain facts that give you what's called standing. And the Supreme Court of the state of Kansas referred that back to the District Court in Montgomery County for that determination. So actually, I'm kind of proud that I've been sued by the ACLU. Not too many people can say that.
Thank you. Next question is for you, Mr. Markle. What percent of cases on a monthly basis will you continue, then plea bargain? Will you use plea bargaining? So positive side and negative side of plea bargaining. And will you promise to do your job 100%? Or just plea everything down to show conviction?
Again, the best way to answer that question is to look at my track record. The first day in office here in Wilson County, I was reviewing files. The second day in office, the first thing I did was I sent out communication to all the defense lawyers that have cases in Wilson County that all previous plea offers were revoked. As you can imagine, that caused quite a stir among the defense counsel. They were very upset that I was doing that. And the reason I did that was quite simple. A number of cases, and it's mind-boggling actually if you look at the docket. A mind-boggling number of cases in Wilson County are 3, 4, and 5 years old, and they're repeatedly set for what's called status hearings. And actually, nothing gets done at those status hearings except they get moved down the road for more status hearings. So, for example, I've not been able to go to court this week. So the judges automatically assume that I want a status hearing or I want these cases continued. I've not continued them. I've asked that we go ahead and have court. I will appear by Zoom and we will get those cases done. We have a docket Thursday afternoon, for example, where one of the largest drug cases in the history of Wilson County has not even gotten to preliminary hearing yet. That's unheard of. That's ridiculous. If you look at my record in Montgomery County over the last 20 years, we are the most aggressive prosecutor's office in all of Southeast Kansas. We have the highest conviction rate of any county in Southeast Kansas. We have the highest prison rate of any county in Southeast Kansas. And I'm very proud of that. No, we are not a plea bargain county anymore. That's my promise to you.
Thank you. Mr. Gillett, you have a question?
You never can tell when stuff comes in what the actual facts are that back up what's in the police reports. Most of the time, the police reports are pretty darn accurate. And if there's something that needs to be bargained, you make the plea proposal, and if they don't take it, then you go to trial. Anybody that knows me knows that a defense attorney coming in and saying, well, we're just going to have a trial. It's not going to faze me in the least, because I love trying cases in front of juries. Mr. Markle knows that. And it's one of those things that I've told my wife and my kids, if I die in a trial in front of the jury, don't shed a tear, because you know I will have been doing what I love to do. And that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you. I have one more question, a few more, but I only have one I'm going to present, and then we'll ask some questions from the floor. We're in good time. And this one is, start with. Do you have any past experience prosecuting asset seizures, and was it in your capacity as a county attorney or in your private practice?
Mark, you cut out on me. Can you repeat the question, please? I'm sorry.
Yes. Do you have any past experience prosecuting asset seizures? And was it in your capacity as a county attorney or in your private practice?
I have not done any in private practice. The county attorney has the authority to do forfeitures, and that's what needs to be being done rather than being farmed out to private individuals or private law practices, because some of them will charge like 15% as kind of a standard thing. I've heard that some people have charged as much as 30%, but that's something that I would do as a county attorney. Those funds belong to law enforcement, and those need to be going to law enforcement, not into an attorney's pocket or anything like that. I don't have a problem in doing them. We did some of those back when I was county attorney. I can't remember the numbers. That's been a while back, but I have no problem in doing that. And that would be one of the first things that gets filed after the criminal case gets filed.
Larry, you have that?
Yes, Mark, thank you.
Go ahead.
Yes, I've had a lot of experience doing civil asset forfeitures. In fact, a lot of that experience is in Wilson County, doing those for the sheriff's department and the two police departments. I've done those for years for those departments. They hired me as their private attorney. And the reason for that is your two previous county attorneys refused to do asset forfeitures. And so I was hired by those departments to do them, and we were extremely successful in getting money for the county using that vehicle. What you have to understand is that civil asset forfeitures are a very specialized area of the law, and I'm one of the few attorneys in the state of Kansas that actually knows how to do them, has done them, and has been successful at it. One of the things that what you also have to realize is that most law enforcement agencies will no longer do those for the simple reason is you can't file the civil forfeiture action right after you file the criminal case, is because there has to be a conviction now. And so that delays it a lot. There's also a number of reporting requirements that have now been imposed, recently been imposed by legislation, And it's just too cumbersome for the law enforcement agencies to do that. So what we've done in Montgomery as well as other counties is those are now being referred to a different department in the Department of Revenue for they're called tax stamps, and those are done administratively. They're not done in the county attorney's office anymore. However, I'm still one of the few attorneys that gets calls, emails all the time about how to handle forfeitures, because there are a lot of them pending all across the state, and I advise attorneys free of charge all across the state on how to accomplish those.
Mr. Markle, would you explain for us for a layperson, what a civil forfeiture is?
Sure. When somebody's involved in an illegal activity, there's a specific list of crimes in the state of Kansas that where if that person's involved in the illegal activity, that you can take their physical assets. For example, one of the ones that most people don't understand or even think about is fleeing and eluding. But the most common ones are drug crimes. And what is allowed under the civil asset forfeiture statute is that any proceeds or property that's used to facilitate that crime can be seized by that law enforcement agency. So for example, if a drug deal takes place in someone's living room, then their couch, their television, other things that are in that living room are used to do what's called facilitate that drug deal. Also, if you remember back to, how was Al Capone actually convicted? He wasn't convicted of bootlegging, he was convicted of tax evasion. You can also use the proceeds example to seize bank accounts and other funds because these people don't have any other source of income. They don't have full-time jobs, they didn't get a tax refund, etc. And so those large bank accounts that these people often have, or these large stashes of money that they have in their deep freeze, are subject to seizure. And so there's a due process way that can be done. However, again, a lot of those rules have changed, and law enforcement agencies simply don't want to do them anymore because of the reporting requirements and all the strict requirements that are put in by a Democrat-led committee up in Topeka.
Okay, thank you. John, I'm asking to define, give you 2 minutes to, you want to do something with that.
As far as the changes in the law, I would make sure that I was up to speed on those and I wouldn't have any problems following through with that stuff. The forfeiture stuff that we ran into before when I was county attorney, a lot of the stuff was just not even worth forfeiting. You got to make it worthwhile. The questions that I would have is when Mr. Markle was doing forfeitures, how much was he charging law enforcement to be doing those, and why was he not doing those as a county attorney instead of as a private attorney, so that there wasn't any fees until the law enforcement would get all of the funds?
The question.
Oh, you asked the question?
I assume I get a chance to rebut that.
You already got a chance to do all that I was explaining, so.
There should be a rebuttal.
Give you a minute, Larry.
Well, first of all, I was never a county attorney in Wilson County when I was doing this. Okay. That's just a simple fact. I didn't have the ability as county attorney to do them in Wilson County. Your 2 previous county attorneys refused to do that. And under the forfeiture laws that existed then and even exist now, when the county attorney refuses to do that, the law enforcement agencies are able to hire their own private attorney, and they chose me.
Okay, thank you. Back to you, John.
Okay. He didn't answer the question about how much he was charging, and that was one of the things that I wanted to know.
Okay, I'll answer it, Mark.
Go ahead.
I was charging 15%. That's far less than any other attorney in this entire area wanted. Some of them wanted 50%. And I was doing
Okay.
all of their cases for 15%.
All right, let's go on. Okay. Let's move on. We're going to go to the floor for questions now. And the next question goes start with you, John. Okay. Question? Please.
John, some people have asked that you have represented a lot of criminals
Right.
in the past. And they are concerned about if you are the county attorney, will you be able to prosecute them? Or will you have to pass that off, not the right word, but will you have to hand that off to another attorney? And would that be your wife?
No, if I was disqualified, my wife would be disqualified as well if it was somebody that I was currently representing. Anybody that I had previously represented and no longer represented, there would be no problem with me prosecuting them. And you need to understand too that the bulk of my practice is civil, and some fairly large civil type cases in lots of other counties outside this area. And a bunch of those have been being settled and getting resolved. And so I think the numbers that would be there would be pretty small.
Well, because we ran into the past, we had a different county attorney. What we have now is the one before. And there were so many cases that she couldn't handle and turned over to a different attorney. And then, of course, they built the county. And sometimes that bill could get pretty big. And we were real concerned about, if you're the county attorney, we want you prosecuting more cases and not
Absolutely.
pass them off. That's not the right word, but you know what I mean.
Yes,
Hand them off to somebody
absolutely.
else.
That's why I don't understand why the county is paying for severance cases and sink cases to have Kansas Legal Services be doing that. There are other things that don't make any sense to me. And let's face it, this money is the citizens' money. It's not our personal money as employees of the county. And that needs to be husbanded pretty closely and kept close to the vest on that stuff. I think there's other things that are getting farmed out that shouldn't be and ought to be being done by the prosecution. And I would be one who would be doing those things to minimize that. I'm not somebody that's coming in wanting a raise to take the job. I know what it pays, and that's what I'm willing to work for.
What does it pay, John? It's still 50?
It's right at $60,000 a year.
Okay, one other question. Will you do tax sales? Or are you going to?
Oh, absolutely. Sure.
Well, I've
done a lot of them.
8 years we went without tax sale.
Well, that's ridiculous.
It was ridiculous, absolutely. And finally, it was farmed out a couple of years ago.
I'll do them.
Not
Not farm them out.
okay.
There's no need for that.
Okay. Mr. Markle, did you hear that question? Did you hear that? It was about passing prosecutions on to other, farming them out. Oh, you want to ask that question again? Russ?
Where he had represented criminals in the past, if he was county attorney, would there be a conflict with him prosecuting the people that he had represented in the past? And if he would do tax sales?
And do you do tax sales?
Okay, two parts. One, not only John's prior representation, but Jill's as well. Jill has probably half a dozen, 7 or 8 cases on tomorrow's docket. Those are also going to be conflicted out, and the county's going to have to pay for a special prosecutor for those cases. She does a lot of child needed care on the juvenile side. juvenile offender cases. Those are all going to be conflicted out, and the county will have to pay somebody to be the special prosecutor. John referenced my farming out some juvenile work to Kansas Legal Services. That is free of charge. Kansas Legal Services does not charge for that service. They have a federal grant, and they do this for a number of small counties where they do what are called severance hearings, and then they do the appeal for those severance hearings free of charge. It did not cost the county anything. It will not cost the county anything for me doing that. These are folks that have attorneys that are specialized in severance hearings, and it makes no sense to not utilize that free service. And as far as asking for a raise, I've never asked the county for a raise. I know what it pays. I signed on for whatever it is. As far as tax sales, it's part of the job. In fact, I've tried for years in Montgomery County for the treasurer to use all of the different vehicles that are available prior to the tax sales to collect these debts. And nobody will do it because it's a political decision. And they don't want to offend anybody because the treasurer and the sheriff are both elected positions.
Okay, thank you. Next question is for you, Mr. Markle. Question from the floor?
Yes, I got one for the law enforcement side of it. A lot of times we'll do investigations, we write reports, and we think we have enough to get the case through, and then it doesn't seem to go through. Just wondering if they were any plan or anything in mind that if we need that little bit of touch to get that case on through the court system, if they're going to advise or if they just going to leave it lay.
Mr. Markle, did you get the question?
I believe so. It's my turn to go first.
Yes, yes it is. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Let's just go through the things that I've already instituted. One is in Montgomery County, we established monthly law enforcement department head meetings. In other words, I meet with the sheriff and all the chiefs once a month to discuss issues like this. Number two, I set up training. As soon as I got into office here in Wilson County, we already did our first training. We had a second one scheduled for phone dumps and how to do those. So that interaction between the county attorney's office and law enforcement agency was there. You'll find that my record as a county attorney is I'm very proactive. For example, I sent out a request last week to all the department heads to get phone tech for Wilson County, and the county attorney's office would pay for it. It's amazing to me that Wilson County does not have the ability to download a cell phone, which everybody knows we live on our cell phones now, and it's the best evidence possible. I also set up training for computer downloads. Nobody in Wilson County is qualified to do that and then come to court and testify. But those trainings got canceled because of the COVID situation. I've also implemented a series of letters that I've used for years that follow up with officers on what is missing in cases and what's obviously missing in cases. I've also had weekly meetings with officers from each department in prepping their cases for hearings that are coming up. This is something that they've never done. Folks, you have deputies that have been on the force for 3 to 4 years and have never even been to the county attorney's office. They didn't even know who the county attorney was. They'd never met him. They'd never prepped for a case. That's not how I do business. The officers will know. And more importantly, the victims will know. I had about a 3-hour meeting with the local victim that reported sat on the county attorney's desk for over 2 years and nothing was done.
Thank you. Mr. Gillett?
Some of you probably know I'm the city prosecutor for Fredonia, and I did 2 trials tonight before I got over here. And in my dealings with both Neodesha PD and with Fredonia PD and the sheriff's office, I found that the reports have been actually pretty darn good and very detailed, and that's led us to get convictions and stuff because of that. So I have not seen issues with how they've been writing their reports. They've been incredibly detailed. That surprised me, and it's been very good that they have written in the manner that they have, and we've been successful with the prosecutions.
We got time for another question on the floor.
I have one.
And this goes to Gillett first. You're up.
You mentioned that you're also the city prosecutor, so is that another employment?
It is a position that I've had yet recently.
And do you mind sharing how much time it takes and what the salary is?
Not at all. It's $725 a month. It doesn't take necessarily all that much. Part of that is because of the result of how well the reports are written and prepared and submitted to me. The officers are readily available for me to talk with on the telephone on anything that I have any questions on, but very rarely have I had questions because they've done such a good job. If you're asking about time during the course of a week, I probably overkill because I go through a lot of detail on it. I'd say anywhere from 4 to 8 hours, depending on. We only have court twice a month as far as on our regular court stuff. We have code enforcement, and I've had to do some additional research in regards to that. The pay is still the same.
Mr. Markle, that question was pretty much toward Mr. Gillett. We give you a chance to say something.
I don't work for any other cities or any other prosecutors' jobs. My other, let's say, activities are with church, with family, taking care of my cows and my farm. I do a lot of proactive stuff in the community. We had presentations scheduled for the Chamber of Commerce in both Fredonia and Neodesha. Typically, in the past, I've given presentations to the schools. I've given presentations in the churches, the neighborhood watch programs, the concealed carry classes. I was instrumental in setting up and approving the language used in the different Facebook pages for the different law enforcement agencies in Montgomery County. And I do spend a lot of time communicating with victims of crimes here in Wilson County because we don't have a victim witness coordinator like I do in Montgomery County. And we spend a lot of time explaining to them the procedural nature of the case, any, let's say, evidentiary problems, and also any prosecutorial decisions that we make.
Okay, we have time for one more question. Yes.
With respect to a lot of questions, to be fair, Mr. Thompson also served as the municipal court attorney. Jill Chard also served as the municipal court attorney. That has been the case, at least for the last 2 county attorneys. It's not unusual.
No, it's not, and that's they had served in that capacity.
Yeah. Any other questions? Any other questions? Got time for one more, then we're going to have closing comments. I've got a couple more here. I'll let you go. We don't have to fill all the time, do we? Let me see if one of these is. Yeah, let's go with this one because it has to do with helping our community in a pretty big way and some money. And the question is going to go to Mr. Markle first. Simple question. Will you make use of community services for restitution, work programs, et cetera?
Absolutely. One of the things that I'm proud of in previous counties that I've served in is we've worked with the Ministerial Alliance to have restitution programs for especially juveniles. There's a church camp over in Sedan where the maintenance guy was very good at working with juveniles and have them come out there and clear brush, etc. We have a lot of opportunities in our community here in Wilson County to reintegrate these people into society and not have them just sitting out, in the jail, twiddling their thumbs and costing us taxpayer money. And we've been successful in doing that. I've also got connections with a program called Momentum. It's, again, a totally self-funded agency. And what they do is they provide training classes for the people in Wilson County. I've already referred a couple of defendants to them. They work with community resources to get jobs, to get housing, to take care of daycare, education, etc. It's been a very successful program in some of our larger cities, and I recently brought that to Montgomery County in January of this year, and I brought it to Wilson County in May of this year.
Thank you. Mr. Gillett?
I was involved in working with law enforcement and with judges involved in getting a drug court system set up for this 31st Judicial District. And that has had a number of benefits. There's been quite a few people have gone through there, have progressed, graduated, and have been doing well. I know that the Montgomery County does not have a drug courts program. And so I've been working in regards to that. There's been other things that we've done in the community. My wife especially has been very active in a lot of things. I've been in the Rotary Club. I've been up through the chairs there, president of that. Along Tri-Valley Street Road. I got to have something, fun to do. Not that Rotary isn't, but Tri-Valley Roads is a lot of fun and a lot of very good people there. And we do things and contribute stuff to disadvantaged people and or helping kids, things of that nature. My wife, I've got to speak up for her. She has made 1,200 masks, and a lot of them for children, because masks for children were hard to come by. And where I've got that Chiefs thing that everybody keeps telling me I need to get rid of. She's made me 3 different masks. Apparently, the Batman mask wasn't quite the thing I should have had on in court down in Montgomery County. Just that caused a little disturb, but it wasn't the whole mask. I mean, it was just here. So we've been very active and locally in the community, and we're going to continue to be. And so that there's no question about it. When I bought this ground out here in the house that Fred Lorenz used to have, I told Fred, I'm not buying this just to live in. I plan to live and die here. I intend to be buried here. I'm not going anywhere. I still love this county, and I love the people of this county. And we will continue to do things, whatever the outcome is in regards to helping out in the community.
Okay, thank you. And our answers are kind of gone into closing, but we're going to get 2 minutes for closing statements. And Mr. Markle went first last time, so John, you go first this time. 2 minute closing statements. Whatever you want to do.
Some of you that read the newspapers have sent some questions out, and I sent my answers in. During the time I was the county attorney, I ended up holding every office in the Kansas County and District Attorneys Association. and served as the president of the Kansas County and District Attorneys Association. I was also very active in the National College of District Attorneys. There will be a list of things that I accomplished in the newspapers. I'm not going to go through the list of all of those things that I did in those respects and completed. Those are a great group of people, and we worked hard. I got to learn and do an awful lot with people from Chicago, New York that were trying cases. I can't help it. I love trying cases. It's not probably quite to an addiction, but the things that we have done and locally and along with those things that I accomplished have been beneficial to this county before, and they still will be again with me as the county attorney. I would ask for your vote for county attorney.
Mr. Markle?
Thank you, Mark. Again, thank you folks for being here tonight and listening to us and asking the questions. Appreciate you giving us this opportunity to present ourselves to you. Folks, the real question is, who's going to do the best job for your county? Because you've got two guys that have long established careers. And I would strongly suggest that you look at my history as a county attorney in Montgomery County for over 20 years and look at the conviction rates, the way that we've worked and improved the system over there, the way we've improved the relationship with law enforcement, and just the overall job that the county attorney's office has done as kind of a springboard to work in Wilson County. There's a reason that the chief of police of Neodesha and the chief of police of Fredonia, Kansas have endorsed my campaign. They believe in me. These are guys that you've hired to protect your community. I think you ought to listen to them. They're people that you trust. I think you ought to trust them. They're people that you count on every day, and they want somebody in that office that they can count on. They've chosen me. I'd ask you to do the same. I can't do this job alone. I need their support, but I need yours as well. And that's why I'm asking you to vote for me at the primary. And I want your continued support once I'm elected, because I'm going to be out there in the community, all those different places that I listed before, and all those different places that need strong, proactive county attorney. Thank you.